I'm just in the midst of having a fling with the Hyundai Ioniq EV, but could I live with it? And would I even want to? The thinking person's love-hate relationship with electric cars is next. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, the place where Australian new car buyers save thousands off their next new cars. Hit me up on the website for that. I'm currently 1 week into 10 days of sleeping with the Hyundai Ioniq EV, and the sparks are flying. So it seems like a bit of an apt time to talk about this. Everyone is doing it. Electric cars. Criminal, planet-polluting Volkswagen assholes will peddle their alleged virtue and spend $68 billion over the next 5 years rolling out their EVs. That's what they say, and let's face it, so trustworthy. Mercedes-Benz, which recently cloned the Nissan Navara Ute. Move over, Dolly the sheep, you geniuses. Big Bad Benz will drop $15 billion on 3-point swastika battery Mercedeses in a similar time frame. It'll be interesting to see the Germans not actually gassing people. Will they cope? Let's find out. Those prices, okay, all Shitsvillian microdollars, SMDs, about 72 retardistani cents a piece. Big bucks in total, I think you'd agree. Tesla killing bucks, I would argue. This tsunami of premium German battery car investment will most likely swamp Elon Musk's cash incinerating bullshit machine all the way up in the desert at Electric Avenue, Sparks, Nevada, which will probably go tits up and become merely a badge subsumed into some evil German EV automaker's empire. History repeating there, I think. Just like Maybach, Rolls-Royce, Bentley and Bugatti, only batteries will be included, at least this time. Tesla, powered by the monkey spankers. Admit it, it's certainly on the cards. So with all that as the backdrop, I'm driving the Ioniq, Straya's cheapest EV, which is quiet and smooth and it keeps up in traffic without being actually speedy, and it's quite well appointed and comfortable as well, and certainly it's a practically sized car, unlike the first EVs, and you don't have to look like you're on the way to Comicon to drive one. So that's quite nice, I think. No Trekkie jumpsuit required. Yes. On balance, I kind of like the Ioniq, especially in traffic. I mean, I don't like it the way I like an i30N, but it's still okay. And of course, I will be giving it back on Friday, which is very, very different to forking over 50,000 of your own SMDs and sticking with the vehicle for 5 long years. Ioniq is the 6th EV I've driven to date, ranging from the first Mitsubishi iMiEV to the Model S, and 10 days is the longest I've ever slept with an EV. I could certainly live with an Ioniq 97% of the time, but of course I'd have to train myself not to lust after actual spirited driving. In traffic though, who cares? It's absolutely fine, and it's definitely not sluggish, and it's quite refined. Silent, without being deadly, would be one way to put it. I guess the other 3% of the time, call it roughly 1 day every month, I might need to go more than 200 kilometres in one sitting, right? And that's going to be a pain in the arse, frankly. The average passenger vehicle in Straya does only 35 kilometres a day, according to the Bureau of Statistics. So you could drive an Ioniq EV for almost a whole week without recharging if you are that quintessentially average driving dude or dudess. Hyundai says 230 kilometres in the real world, but my experience is, with the air conditioning blasting, keeping the Shitsvillian summer at bay, you'd best bank on 200 Ks from a full tank of electrons. That's 120 miles in America or Brexitistan, wherever. But you do pay a significant premium for this considerable constraint on the range compared with a conventional internal combustion car. And there is no real getting around that. Okay, so I am a controversial bastard. Everyone says it, but one of the things I hate about the modern media landscape is it's so friggin' bipolar. The inherent bias towards conflict and sensationalism, plus the incessant advertiser suck, is out of fucking control. Unless you are shouting that you hate EVs because you love internal combustion up against another imbecile shouting back that you're a planet-raping, hydrocarbon-fueled shill for big oil. The mainstream media is really not going to be that interested because that's the formula for success. And thanks once again for putting us on the flight path. Clearly not a battery-powered Airbus there. Anyway, on the TV, the radio, whatever, every issue has to be tribal, like it's life or death. You've got to be a champion of EVs or a hater to fit in, and I blame you in the audience for this because you just lap that shit up. So when I get critical of Tesla's cult-like misrepresentation of reality or how filthy the grid is here in Australia, I get labelled an EV hater. And if I say pollution kills more of us than car crashes, then according to some of you, I've been indoctrinated into the climate cult. And these are, of course, mutually exclusive propositions. So give me a friggin' break. Real issues have nuance. There's grey in between the black and the white extremes. And there are facts too, and they're not always subservient to one tribe's underlying agenda or the other's. Unfortunately, you get 90 seconds for a TV news story or 2.5 minutes for a cross on breakfast TV. And I am over it. You could talk about EVs and the planet for 3 hours and you just about scratch the surface. And you might even make progress, real progress, provided this was done in conversation with informed, educated people, in good faith, with due deference to the facts, and an open mind to embrace actually making the world better and how we might do that. But I doubt it would rate on TV or the radio. You could absolutely sell me the benefit of EVs purely on the basis of clean air in our cities. But you can't sell me EVs on the basis of planet saving or cost. That's how this plays out for me. Let me say, climate change is very real. Humanity is causing it. It is absolutely an emergency. We need to act. There is no doubt on this, none whatsoever. It's like the health implications of smoking. The data is that clear-cut. But with chumps like Dumb Donald and ScoMo at the helms of Retardistan and Straya, respectively, we are just wasting time disgracefully looking like chumps in front of the West and the rest of the developed world. So well done us, yes. However, cars are only 8% of the greenhouse problem here in Australia, and our arsehole federal government is not only addicted to coal like the worst crack-addicted whore ever, it's also the Walter White of pushing black and brown upon the world. That's because we export immense amounts of coal, far more than we burn. To put this in perspective, okay, Australia emits about 600 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent greenhouse gases every year. That's everything from agriculture to electricity to transport, the lot in total. But the amount of coal we export effectively doubles that. We push it offshore, Breaking Bad like a climate crack-dealing kingpin. So well done, Scott Morrison, you happy-clapping God-bothering, coal industry filleting arsehole. Personal opinion. So, I think it's fair to say that I'm kind of in the middle on EVs, and therefore hated equally by Kool-Aid sipping Team Tesla plug-in nut jobs, but also detested by society's most scientifically illiterate right-wing retards. In other words, people who are actually stupid enough to conclude climate change is a conspiracy. If you're one of those people, g'day! Thanks for watching. Don't breed or vote. I'm looking forward to the comments already. Pro tip, I already know that CO2 is plant food. Thanks. I could live with the Hyundai Ioniq seamlessly 97% of the time. And the other one day a month, I guess Google could find me a fast charger out there on location, and I'd just have to hope that there are not a dozen other EVs queued up ahead of me at 23 minutes apiece for a so-called fast charge, because that's going to get kind of old, I think you'd agree. But my accountant would tell me that I am paying $14,000 more than an equivalent internal combustion car. That's after factoring in installing a 7 kVA charger for the Ioniq at home. He'd point out to me that the average price of electricity, factoring in at least some off-peak consumption, is maybe something like, let's call it 20 cents for 1 kilowatt hour. That's SMDs, obviously. That's about 3.4 cents per kilometre in an EV versus about 10.4 cents per kilometre for a similar sized 2-litre internal combustion conventional car. So driving the Ioniq, I am paying $14,000 extra up front to save 7 cents per kilometre. Economically then, I'd break even in just 200,000 kilometres. That's a little under 16 years of average driving. So kindly don't waste my time with EV evangelising bullshit statements about how much you are saving on fuel. It just doesn't add up. I would argue it's very difficult to mount an economically compelling case for buying an EV. I guess you could pay 20 or 30 grand more for a solar array on the roof and a stationary battery at home, and then you could go completely off the grid. That's a lot extra, I'd suggest, to save an additional 3.4 cents per kilometre in economic terms, however environmentally laudable that may be. And clearly some people have 30 or 40 grand lying around to pursue sustainability. Maybe that's worth it to you if you are affluent enough and you seek to achieve what dumb Donald and our God-bothering PM cannot, which would be carbon neutrality for the future, #political arseholes. Tomorrow on the channel, if I'm not abducted by SEAL Team 6 in the meantime, let's do a thought experiment, okay? If we all switch to Ioniqs tomorrow, would the electricity grid actually cope? And if not, could we jump-start it with renewables? There's a thought. That's it for me. Don't forget to hate, of course, in the comments below. I can take it. Bring it, yes!